Hi, it's Tom Manza from SwimOttawa.com. What I'd like to talk about now is the rotation part of the swim stroke, the front crawl, and the importance of doing it properly in terms of being able to swim faster and easier. Now, when we roll, we want to roll similar to a log, and what you have to do is envision your body being in a very hollow tube. You've got a very minimal area to actually roll. So what we want to do is avoid the zigzagging and the head dips and the head lifting, which causes a roll that we don't want, which is typically up, down, or laterally, because we want to be able to roll like a log, very lean and very narrow-like. So the concept of rotating in swimming is that when we swim, if we're to be flat, you're going to be moving like a barge because there's a lot of surface area in your body as you try to swim with a very flat body this way. So when we stretch it out, you actually will do two things. Number one is that you minimize resistance because you have a narrower torso that can slice further in the water. And second thing is if I'm able to rotate, I have this much more distance. So compare this to rotating. So I have a longer vessel in which to pull water. Okay? So the concept of rotation is very important. So when we rotate, each stroke here, and as discussed in a previous video, what we have is an S stroke, slight S stroke. So here at the full rotation, so really what I tell our swimmers to do is think of the belly button. That dictates where your head movement is when you breathe. In saying that, what will happen is at the full rotation is when the hand enters here, that's when your belly button is exposed the most. And it's at that point, if you're to breathe, that's where you take the breath. It's initiated here, and this arm is straight up. This one's following through in this position here. So here we have the rotation, through, okay, and the head goes down as it starts pulling. Now, the sequence of where this hand should be as opposed to this hand really depends on the technique that you use. There's certain swimmers like Grant Hackett, the Australian sort, they're what we call front quadrant swimmers. So they really have a catch-up. So if the arm is here, it's entering, this arm is actually about this position in the underwater catch portion. So they're swimming sort of a catch-up stroke similar to this. Okay, those are classic long distance swimmers. You'll have sprinters who will actually maximize the pull part, so they're almost at opposite ends. So instead of being front quadrant here, they're probably here. So their stroke is similar to a stroke like this. Okay, and the philosophy and science behind that is they always want to be constantly pulling water behind them as they're stroking. So similar to kayaking with a paddle. Finish off one paddle, the other paddle is entering the water and pulling this part. So rotation plays a part in the breathing, it plays a part in the actual, what the other arm is doing. You know, at what point does it actually finish off the stroke, enter the water, where's the opposite hand, okay? So when you swim, you do want a rotation, especially when you breathe. At this point, you're rotating, you follow your belly button, and you rotate to the other side. So it's a swimming rotation that's more accentuated when you breathe because you're lifting, I shouldn't say lifting, you're actually rotating the head to the side as you breathe here. You want to minimize the upper head breathing that we see quite often, this kind of mistake here. Because what that does is it causes your lower body to drag. So when you breathe, you want to minimize the head movement. It's a tilt to the side. And ideally what you want is one and a quarter goggles out of the water. And as if you're a fish, you're being hooked, you want your lip to be pointing upwards. So this way. So the trough of water is almost cutting the side of my face in half that way. So some things to think about to recap in terms of the rotation. Okay. As you rotate, and if you're breathing, follow your belly button. That's indication that your head is in line with your spine this way. Okay. Second thing is if you are breathing, what you want to do is have a low head. So when you're breathing, it is low, you're not lifting up. okay, which causes more drag and it causes more energy, especially your neck muscles, to lift your head upwards. And finally, as you're swimming, you have to have even rotation. And a good technique to have is bilateral breathing. Even if you don't use it in competition, it's great for open water swimming to breathe on both sides, because you could have wave conditions that you would want to breathe on one side. You might have competitors, other swimmers you want to watch on the other side. And more importantly, it's a way of evening out the distribution of the rotation, so you're not always torquing on one side, lopsided. You're able to even it out by breathing on both sides of the body. So hopefully those are tips you can do in your next practice.